I'm not a big fan of Lori Lightfoot, but phew, what she did is friggin' amazing because it shines a light on what's going on in Dalton. So let's go. Let's go.
So let's jump into the specifics. Many of you know that the village's fiscal year runs from May 1 to April 30th. So it's those 12 months, but they span 2 years. Certain financial disclosures are mandated under state law that the village reports to the comptroller of the state each fiscal year. Two documents that we're going to talk specifically about are the annual financial report, and you see the citation there, it's a state law, and the audited financial statements. The village has not, and let me repeat that, the village has not complied with these statutory requirements since fiscal year 2021.
So not only the mayor, but the village administrator, Keith Freeman, that super mayor, super mayor fired the village administrator. In between all these people, whether it's the mayor, the village administrator, there has to be somebody that puts this information in, and they haven't done it since 2021. Oh, this is not going to be good.
There's no annual financial report available after 2021 and no audited financial statements after 2021. So what that means is the information that we're providing you has not been thoroughly audited by a CPA, but we do have information coming from an entity that essentially serves as the finance department of the village.
So basically they hired somebody to be their CPA for the time being.
Historically, from what we can tell, the village has had small or no full-time financial staff. At various times, even though statutorily there's a provision for a city treasurer, none exists and hasn't for some time. There's a provision for a finance director. There's been intermittent people that have served that role, but that role has been vacant as of May of this year. And before that, the person who held the role started working part-time as of the end of December in 2023. So as you can see, given the lean or no financial staff, there's a lot of dependence upon the John Kasparic accounting firm, which has functionally operated as the village's finance department for some time.
Mr. John Kasparic, I hope I got that right. He's only been part-time since December of 2023, and basically he's no longer existing after May of 2024. And the reason this is because all hell is breaking loose in Dalton, and Miss Super Mayor friggin' knows it's coming down the pipeline, and she's trying to cover up whatever she can. She fired the village administrator, her right-hand man. They got rid of the police chief. Oh, wait till you see later in this video on how much he was making.
What we have examined are monthly financial reports from January of 2021 to May of 2024 produced by the Kasparic firm. And as I mentioned, due to the village's failure to conduct an audited financial statement, we have to caveat the accuracy of the information, but we feel fairly confident based upon lining out not only the monthly reports, but looking at bank statements that match up with the information that's in the financial reports. And we've had the opportunity to talk to some of the folks at the Kasparic firm who are responsible for managing the finances of the village, and that work is ongoing. As of May 30th, of this year, the village's general fund was in a net deficit position, meaning that there is insufficient funds in that general fund.
The trustees have been saying this for a long time. I wonder how much money they're in deficit of. Keep going, Lori. Give the receipts like Tiffany always says. Here's the receipts.
As we mentioned, the general fund is used to account for the majority of the village's day-to-day operations, including payroll and vendor payments. The village's special revenue fund and debt service fund, however, are in a positive position, but each of those funds are restricted funds, meaning you cannot borrow from one to give to the other. And that is what's causing, in part, the financial crisis. What's next you can see is a graphic that depicts where we started as of April, where the village started as of April of 22 with positive of $5.6 million in the general fund, and where we are as of May of 2024, which is a negative $3.65 million.
Mayor Lightfoot, if I may,
Yes, sir.
just kind of as a summary now, just quick numbers. So in a 2-year span, we're talking about a $9 million swing or $9 million of deficit over that course of time. Would that be
Yes,
close
sir.
accurate?
Yes, sir.
And who knows? It could be a lot more than that. Did you hear that? This woman in 2 years found a way to spend almost $9.5 million or whatever it is, and she don't give two flying.
Yep. All right, turning now to the increasing expenditures of the village. Over the last 3 fiscal years, the average monthly expenditures of the village have increased by nearly 30%. As you can see in the graphic, in fiscal year 2022, on average, the village spent about $1.9 million a month, but in the last fiscal year, that amount had climbed to $2.5 million. These increasing expenditures have not been accompanied by corresponding increases in revenue. Again, as you see in the graph on the blue bars, the revenues have remained relatively the same over that time period, just over $24 million, while expenditures have climbed from $23 million in 2022 to $30 million in 2024.
Good old Tiff Tiff found a way to spend some money and thinking that nobody was paying attention. And, oh man, this is, you can't make it up.
Ultimately, in fiscal years 2023 and 2024, expenditures exceeded revenue. Specifically in 2024, it was over $5 million more in expenditures than revenues. To look further at the increasing expenditures, the table on the screen highlights the 2 village departments that are the main drivers of this spending increase: the General Administration and Administrative Compensation Department and the Police Department. Turning first to the General Administration Department, line, the increase in expenditures here has grown about approximately 47%. This was around $6.4 million in fiscal year 2022, and it was $9.4 million in fiscal year 2024.
I want to know where it all went. Like, nobody could sit here and tell me that just everybody got a raise, everybody got overtime, right? Is that what you're saying? Basically, in a nutshell? Because this is crazy.
There have been increases in general administration spending in nearly every area, but there are a handful that stick out the most. As you can see on the first line, the largest driver of this increase is a more than double change in liability insurance cost. It's gone from $1.2 million in fiscal year 2022 to $3.2 million in fiscal year 2024. Other areas where we see large increases are miscellaneous expenditures, settlements, legal fees, and telephone.
Let me just add regarding the legal fees. These are, everything that we're representing to you tonight are things that have been booked in one of the general ledgers or otherwise. We know that the legal fees that have been booked so far are underestimated because there are a number of legal fees that have yet to be paid. And obviously, with the litigation that's been filed, particularly by vendors who have not been paid, those legal fees will definitely, this is a very conservative estimate of what those fees actually are. Let me drill a little bit down also in what we're seeing so far with the police department. Those expenditures have increased approximately 21% since FY22. Some of that is obviously driven by the union contracts and making sure that there's retro pay and that the police officers are compensated according to the collective bargaining agreement. Within the police department expenditures, categories with large increases include overtime.
Oh my God. This woman racked up almost $1 million in overtime in just 2 years. I mean, she racked it up the year before, but in just 2 years, she was over $1 million. For what? She thinks she's like the president of the United States or something.
Other miscellaneous expenses, and I will tell you we don't know exactly what that is, but we're working on unpacking that, contractual services, other professional services, and medical insurance. We wanted to highlight for you, particularly given overtime, what we saw is...
Are you seeing these numbers? Dude, these numbers are wild. Holy cow. I need to go work for Dalton. Shit.
Two outliers in officers, Officer Terry Young and Officer William Reed. Both of these individuals in the last 2 years have earned more in overtime than their base compensation. And you can see these numbers here. Officer Terry Young in FY 2023 earned $194,290 total, given the base salary and the overtime. And then in FY 2024, that increased to $227,351, combining the base salary and the overtime. Officer Reed for FY 2023 had a total earnings of $145,450, and in FY 2024, $192,732.
I don't know what they were doing. But I'm thinking they were doing some of the right things for TIF, and that's why they got all this OT. Because wow, holy cow.
We thought it also important for you to know that Acting Chief Lacey has accumulated overtime. It's our understanding that he is not part of the collective bargaining unit and has not been for some time, which under normal circumstances would mean that he is not entitled to overtime. But as you can see here, for FY22, FY23, and FY24, and we're now in fiscal year 2025, through those 4 years, he's accumulated $215,747,000 just in overtime.
This hurts so much. I really feel for you, Dalton, and I'm glad that you're going to clean house. Clean house 2025, because this TIF woman needs to go to federal penitentiary, because this is wild. For her to think that she can get away with this is crazy.
Now we're going to move, ladies and gentlemen, to unfunded expenditures. And this is really focused on, as we alluded to, we're going to move to unfunded expenditures, and this is really focused on checks that have been approved by the board from warrant lists that have come before the Board of Trustees, but held and not sent to the vendors.
Oh, this ought to be a really interesting one, because, you know, these trustees, they were always like, oh, we've already approved all these people, but they're calling us saying we ain't got our check, and we approved it, and we've been approving them. Certain ones they haven't, but the ones they haven't gotten those checks. So let's see how many haven't received their money and how much money they haven't given out.
Based on the records that we have reviewed since March of 2023, the village has been unable to pay all of its monthly expenditures with available cash balance. Since that time, nearly every month, a portion of the checks approved and printed have been held by the village due to unavailability of funds. Per records from the John Kasparic firm, as of June 18, 2024, there are 589 checks totaling over $6 million that have been approved, printed, but not transmitted to vendors. And that is a big driver of the deficit in the general fund.
Oh my God. Almost 600 checks and $6 million that have been approved, and they still haven't been able to write it because they ain't got no money. TIF. Good old super duper mayor. What are you doing? You going to jail, woman. It's just a matter of time, and I'm hoping it's sooner than later, but regardless, even after you get out of office, you ain't out of the woods. They'll keep coming for you, because what you've done is ruin this city. You've ruined the city of Dalton with your ghetto ways.